Welcome to A Walk in My Stilettos, where our goal is to help you walk in your greatness. I'm your host, Makini Smith. Hey, Faith Walkers. Thank you for joining us today on the A Walk in My Stilettos podcast, where we have conversations with amazing women that are letting us step into their shoes. I get inspired when I see another woman succeeding, but as a mindset coach, what interests me most is her backstory and her mindset on how she got there. So today's guest is about to bless us with her testimony. And since you're already here, you may as well subscribe. Today, we have Catherine Addai. She's a mother, a wife, the CEO, and award-winning designer of clothing label Kaela Kay. With a focus on her Ghanaian roots, she emphasizes the beauty in prints and colors that come from and represent Africa through the Ankara textiles. She's been featured on Cityline, which is Canada's longest running daytime talk show, Flair magazine, Globe and Mail Canada, and more. And her pieces have been spotted on actresses like Busy Phillips, KJ Smith, Yvette Nicole Brown, and changemakers like Bozoma Saint John. So please welcome to the show, Catherine Addai.
Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share your story with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. No, I love talking and sharing me, and if I can inspire somebody, fantastic.
I love it. I love it. And I just have to say, before I even go any further, I remember first seeing your pieces on, I believe it was Facebook, and I was like, I need these in my life. I need them in my life. And I seen some of your pieces after on a few of the African Fashion Week runways, and I was like, okay, I need to know who she is because I need these in my life. So I just wanted to say you make some beautiful pieces.
Thank you. And I have a long-standing relationship with African Fashion Week, so I'm not surprised that's probably where you would have seen me first.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the show many times. It's a great collaboration between myself and them, the city of Toronto. So thank you.
I love it. I love it. So I like to start the show with an icebreaker question.
Okay.
Because I feel like as women, we have so many different titles that we go by, but a title that we don't give enough recognition to is our name, because our names have meaning. So when someone calls us our name every day, they're basically declaring that meaning to us. So my question for you, Catherine, is do you know what your name means?
So Catherine, I do know what my name means, and I'm drawing a blank on it.
Oh, no problem. Well, guess what? I got it for you.
Oh, good. You're right there.
So I'm sure with every origin, they say that names have different meanings in different cultures and so on. But when I Googled it, the name Catherine had a Greek origin, which meant pure. So every time someone is saying your name, they're declaring that you are pure.
Yes, in many ways. So to me, that's significant because most people that know me, if they had to say that and kind of put me and pure together, I've been told I have a very pure heart and a very pure mind, just in the sense of being very open and sharing and caring and very, very non-judgmental, just super open-minded. So it's interesting that, it means pure.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So my first question to you, Catherine, is what did you want to be when you were a little girl?
I want to be a dentist.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So how did you go from wanting to be a dentist as a little girl? And I mean, you have a degree in like health informatics and you've worked the corporate ladder for 10 years. So how did you pivot to deciding you want to be a fashion designer?
Pivot. I don't even think so much that I pivoted as much as I think God really just picked me up and put me somewhere else.
Yeah.
So growing up, I was always interested in healthcare. My mother was a nurse for many years, and she worked in pharmaceuticals thereafter until she retired. So I've always been around or been exposed to and had interest in healthcare. Nursing wasn't my thing. Being a doctor wasn't my thing. But I, for some reason, always liked and looked at people's teeth. Weirdest thing. So even when I'm talking to somebody, I'm staring at their teeth. I know.
It's okay. I stare at their eyebrows.
Okay, there you go. And like they're talking, I'm literally just looking at their teeth. And sometimes when I'm talking to somebody, that's the first thing I notice. I'm like, oh, let me pause. You have really nice teeth. But anyway, so I wanted to be a dentist growing up, took all the courses in high school to get prepared when I go into university, went into university in health sciences, and then I discovered that they had a program there called health informatics. I went to the University of Western Ontario, got into first year, and then said, like all these health science courses, really, they're not jiving with me. I'm not liking them very much. And I have, after I graduate, I have to go to dentist school. Like the thought of all those years of schooling. And then I had a stint in a dentist's office. It was a family friend of ours, and she allowed me to just kind of come in and shadow her. With 2 weekends, I shadowed her, and I was like, nope. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought that I would. It's not as, I'm very customer service focused, and I thought that would just be an opportunity for me to really interact with people. There wasn't much interaction except looking them out. And her job even was really, her understudies would do most of the work, and she just kind of goes in and checks their teeth to make sure everything's fine, right? And so I didn't want that. I wanted a career more where it was more interaction and not so siloed, I guess. I just felt like she goes into this building, it's just her and these 2 ladies on her staff, and it's just cranking in, cranking out, cranking out. I didn't like that environment. I literally shadowed her only for 2 weekends. I remember going home and saying, Mom, this is not for me. And she's okay, that's fine, pivot something else in the healthcare field because you're already in this program. And I've always liked computers. I've always been pretty good at it, and I've always had a knack kind of for business. So health informatics was a combination of health sciences, computer science, and business. So I have a major in health sciences, a minor in computer science, and a certificate in writing to make up this fantastic program. I loved it. Got a job right after I graduated as a health information analyst downtown with a major hospital downtown. Worked there for many years, and then moved out to Brampton, and we had our baby. Continued to work there, so then I worked in the industry for 10 years. And in that time frame, maybe 6 years or so in, it's kind of when the fashion bug kind of kicked in. I've always had a lot of clothes. I've always loved fashion, always loved magazines, but never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would leave my job and become a fashion designer full time. Because I really enjoyed working in my career, and I love my job. I had the opportunity to do presentations, and I was talking in front of people, really important people, and going to government meetings. When you graduate from university, you have like a pretty high profile hospital job. That's literally what it was, But after,
so did you have sewing experience?
None.
Prior to? None.
Zero.
Wow.
So my mom actually bought me my first sewing machine just when I had Michaela, our first daughter. Bought my sewing machine, and I say this all the time. I think it was really because she wanted me to hem things and do alterations for her. I don't think she really took it serious that I was going to turn this into anything. But I was complaining that the lady who was sewing my clothes at the time took forever to sew my clothes, and I was always last on her list. I think I was like her youngest client. So, my clothes just weren't priority, and I was complaining because I was going to an event with my boyfriend then, who's not my husband. And my clothes weren't ready and wanted something to wear. So my mom bought me a sewing machine, and I bought a pattern from Fabric Land, a book called Sewing 101, and I taught myself how to sew.
Okay. So I have goosebumps right now. Woo. Okay. Because when my mom came to Canada, she was a fashion designer. She opened up her own location. She was working downtown Toronto, had her own spot. So me sitting as a little girl by her foot as she's on the sewing machine trying to use a needle and thread and put together doll clothes, whatever, but I was in that environment. So you come from an environment where your mom's a nurse, you guys are into a total different industry, and you had no sewing experience. And I need everyone who is listening to this podcast right now, as you are listening, I need you to go and either Google or go to Kaela Kay's Instagram, because her pieces are the most phenomenal pieces. The designs that you create added with the fabric and the colors. I just have to say to you, they are jaw-dropping. They are so beautiful. They need to be in designer magazines. They need to be on international runways everywhere. I don't understand. Back up. Okay, so you taught yourself how to sew. Share with us how Kaela Kay came about from the start, how you were able to turn your passion into the 6-figure business.
So going to that first dress that I made, which took me a whole month to make, and we're going to this African wedding. And I, prior to that, never really even wore our African attire or like our Ankara clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first piece that I actually ever made. And I remember walking into the venue and everybody turned and looked at me. And I said, whoa, okay. So I'm like, oh no, maybe my hair is off, or I don't know, maybe something is off.
I really immediately think the worst.
Yeah, isn't that what we always think, right? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
why are they staring at me? They can't be staring at me. What's happening? I'm saying to my husband, why are they looking at me? And he's like, I don't know, you look nice, I guess. Men, right?
Yeah.
But that night, I had so many people asking me, oh, who sewed your dress? Where'd you get it from? Did you order it online? And I'm like, no, I sewed it myself. And they were like, what? Like, oh, okay, we didn't know that you were into sewing, so I have some fabrics. Can I bring it by? Can I get something custom made? And I was like, flat out, no. No. I was not in the business of sewing for other people. I was not interested in sewing for anybody. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to become an influencer. Like, I'm sewing for myself, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Some parties I have to go to, and then some girlfriends of mine pressured me into making clothing for them. And I remember Facebook was really popular then, and they posted some pictures on Facebook, and then it got like so many likes, and people started emailing and messaging, and still I was saying, no, I only sew for myself and friends. So then when I had Michaela and I was on mat leave with her, that's when I said, okay, you know what, maybe I'll open it up. Since I'm home, I'm on mat leave, I need something to do, because as a first-time mom, you have all this time on your hands.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Nothing else to do. So I opened it up to other people, and I started doing custom sewing. So what people actually don't know, Makini, a lot of people don't know, when I started the company, I sewed everything myself. I cut everything myself. I sewed everything myself. Sometimes the customers didn't have fabric. I sourced all the fabric myself. And I did that for a couple of years until I actually started the collection. I remember my first collection, we shot it downtown Kensington Market. Beautiful summer day. And I said, let me put together these 4 pieces and see if any of my friends, maybe some close friends and friends of friends, will buy some pieces. Mm-hmm. And it was a frenzy. I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I really have something here. It's crazy because who puts out a collection thinking no one's going to buy it? I'm putting it out. Yeah. Just
the self-sabotage that we do as women.
That's crazy, right? And it was a beautiful collection. And I was like, oh, you know what? It's just for pictures. Maybe it'll just help me get my name out there. Because again, still I wasn't thinking I'm going to turn this into a career, because I'm going back to work. I'm going back to 9 to 5. I enjoy working, and this is just a side thing that I'm doing. And then I did the African Fashion Week. So the first year they did their runway show. Mm-hmm. I was one of the featured designers, and I was a part of their very first photo shoot. So that kind of helped solidify my name also in the community, and people started to hear more about me through that platform as well. I still didn't think that it was a full company. It was me sewing clothing that I sell.
Right. You didn't look at it as a business.
No.
Right.
It wasn't even a brand. It's Kaela Kay. It's named after my daughter and myself. And this thing that I put together, and I'm kind of just chugging along. Mm-hmm. The turning point for me, so I had Michaela, went back to work, still working, started taking orders though off of the collections that I put together. Turning point for me, I got a random call from this representative from CNN.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was a joke, right? I'm like, why are you calling me? I'm not taking my phone number. Second of all, why are you calling me? And I said, okay, put it in an email. Email me. I don't know. If you're scared, at least if it's an email, I can sift through it properly.
Right.
And she sent an email, and she said she's writing from CNN Opinions, and they're doing an article on up-and-coming African designers. And they just want to talk to me to kind of get a sense of me and my brand and how I started, whatever. I said, okay, just email me. So the email, a set of questions to answer, didn't think anything of it, put it to the back of my mind, left it. A couple of weeks later, I get a link to the article, and it was myself. And I remember there's another designer also, I can't remember the name of the brand, but another designer in there also, and we were part of the top 10 African brands to watch. And I said, oh, okay. Well, if CNN calls me, then I must be. Forget that everybody else told me my stuff was great. If CNN comes calling, then it must be something fantastic. So putting that article out there, along with the work with Africa Fashion Week, the custom work I was doing and the collection work that I was doing, that's when we really said, my husband and I really sat down and said, you know what, Catherine, you really have something great here. You love doing it. You're super talented at it. So one, you need to officially brand it. Two, you need to legally, tell the government that you own this company and get your accounting together. So, and that must have been circa, that was like 2014. Yeah, so it feels like a long time ago, but it really hasn't been that long.
I think that was probably the year that I met you.
Through Africa Fashion Week.
Yeah, because I'm thinking 2013, 2014, it was around there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, when everything kind of, I built a website. I was taking international orders, a lot of orders in the U.S., orders in the UK, the custom orders and the orders here in Toronto. And I was like, oh my God, and it was, admittedly, it was overwhelming because I felt like this wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't my intention to do.
Right.
And I love my career and I want to be in that, but I'm so drawn to this side hustle that I have, but I'm not sure if it's strong enough to parlay into a full career. So I'll keep working full time and keep doing the side hustle on the side, but I was getting burnt out. Like a constant exhaustion, the pressure to come up with a new collection every season and customers and fashion shows. And I did Africa Fashion Week in New York, and we just started doing things like internationally, and it was overwhelming and it was a lot. And people don't see that. They see,
of course not.
They do, of course not. They see your pictures on social and they think everything's fantastic. I remember this year when I was at African Fashion Week, and another patron came up to me and she said, oh my God, you must be the hardest working African fashion designer that I know. Because you always come out looking flawless. And I said to her, you have no idea. You have no idea what it took for me to get here. First of all, the hair and makeup team took for me to get here and how exhausted I am right now.
Right.
I wish people really got a visual more from entrepreneurs of the hustle and heart we put into every day for us to post a picture. But anyway, so chugging along, taking orders, doing all this international stuff, and then had 2 more children. Life's not busy enough like me.
As if you weren't tired enough?
No, of course not. I had 2 more children because I'm married, and that's what married people do. They have I had 2 more kids, but at that point though, when we had baby Janae, that's when for me I had reached a point where I knew I had had enough of the 9 to 5, because from a business standpoint, the numbers were showing me that it's a viable company, obviously, all these years, and that I could do it full time. Customer and consumer support showed me that the brand had longevity. Just industry support, people that I've met in the industry, the awards I've won, all of those things together showed me that, now is the right time for me to kind of parlay out of doing this full-time job as a health information analyst and focus on running the company full-time. I actually felt like with or without me, whether I do or I don't, my company was going to scale anyway, if that makes sense. It's like on this train and it was going anyway, and I needed to become the conductor of the train. Yeah.
Is that become the conductor or jump off quick?
That's it. That's my analogy. No, really. I'm like, literally either I jump off and I halt it, or I got to get in front of it and I have to take control of it, because the orders were still coming in. It was still overwhelming and something had to give. So either I had to give up my job, I had to give up my kids and my husband, or I had to give up Kaela Kay. Yeah, I can only do two of those 3 things, and the job lost out. But it wasn't a super easy decision. Of course, there was a lot of talking with myself, my husband, my family. I explained to them what I wanted to do, and they said they're surprised I'm actually not even doing it full time yet, and they don't know how I managed to keep going for so long. And this was in 2017 when we had the baby, and just as I was about to get back to work, I called my boss and I said, unfortunately, I will not be coming back.
So what advice would you give to another woman who's considering leaving her 9 to 5 to pursue her dreams right now?
I would say that make sure your timing is right. And when I say make sure your timing is right, don't, if you don't like your job, that's another thing, but don't quit your job without really knowing whether your company is going to be viable or not, and knowing exactly where you stand in the company. I probably wouldn't have done it any sooner from a financial standpoint, because I really wanted to make sure, really need to make sure that the numbers would work, because you have a life, you need to live, and you need to support and sustain yourself. So for as long as you can manage the two and build your side hustle up to the point where you're financially capable of living off of it. I think if you were to jump off from your 9 to 5 into your side hustle, but it's not up to par to a point where you can financially sustain yourself, you probably still will succeed. It'll just be longer and might be a little bit harder. If that makes sense.
No, totally makes sense. You spoke to how the company basically evolved on its own. I want to touch on two things, because one, you weren't even interested in sewing for other people. You only wanted to sew for yourself and others, which I totally get, because I originally went to college for aesthetics and spa management, and I will do my own makeup. And I've had people call me and message me and ask me to do their makeup for weddings and events. And I'm like, yeah, nope, I'm not a makeup artist, not doing it. No, thanks. I'm good. I'm cool. I'll do my own. We'll keep it there. But I totally get where you're coming from with that. But you see how you didn't know how to sew, and your mom gave you the sewing machine, and you design your own dress, and it takes on a life of its own to other people wanting this from you, and you not recognizing the gift and the talent that you have. And CNN wants to feature you. And then you get all of these orders internationally. Like, I think as women, even when God is showing us that we're gifted and talented at something, like, our self-doubt is so strong sometimes. It's incredible. I'm gaining so much from it, because I'm in my season of doubting my own gifts at the moment. So I get it. But I think that's a huge point for people to take away from your story. And it wasn't even over this huge long period of time where, your mother gave you a sewing machine 20 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, and you were self-taught and you were doing all of this. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was where you spoke about, obviously, because your pieces are beautiful, no matter who they're on or where they're posted, what picture it's taken, and it shows, it's beautiful. So everyone's seeing all these beautiful images online and assuming life is perfect. And one of the things that I touch on with a lot of the women that come on the show is, as women, as successful women, as moms and wives and all these other hats that we wear, people, no matter what part of your life you share on social media, they will assume that it's perfect because that snapshot of that moment. And you coming on the show for the podcast, what I love to draw out of people is for you to be transparent and share that, yeah, you may see that pretty picture there, but here is what I had to go through to get to that one click that you see on that image there. Here's the backstory. Here's the dirt that I had to dig myself out of here. So all the women that are listening, that are considering entrepreneurship, or that are in a season of entrepreneurship where life is rough for them and they feel like they're alone, they're like, oh my God, okay, this is real. The adversities are part of the journey. The failures are part of the journey. You have to go through this stuff. But look at these women who are still pushing through, who are still succeeding, who are still making a mark in this world and leaving their footprint, despite everything that they have to go through behind the scenes.
That's beautifully said. Like, it's a great summary of it. And it's really not for the faint of heart. You know what? I didn't even probably think that I had the heart to become an entrepreneur, because it's not anything that I ever aspired to do or to be. But when life or God, or, however you want to phrase it, pulls you in a certain direction, which is how I felt. And even when you're trying to get away from it, if it's meant for you in life, I think you can't get away from it. I never in my wildest dreams, or my husband's dreams, or my mother's, or my family, did they think that Kaela Kay would be full time and would be as big as it is. Because I didn't grow up with that. But God had a different plan, which I'm very, very grateful for, and I'm glad that whether I listened or He forced me. I'm at the point where I am. But to being transparent, and you mentioned that we both wish that people really saw the hustle and heart from entrepreneurs more. So when I was quitting my job, and I've been asked this before, like, was it did you wake up and it was an easy decision and you just kind of woke up the next day and went about your business? And I said, no, I actually cried. I cried because I was still nervous. I was still anxious. Even after putting in my resignation letter, there was a moment of, oh, what did I just do?
The remorse.
yeah, ooh, maybe I should. Was that the right decision? And there were some tears for the fact that I just spent the last 10 years of my life in this industry that I went to school for and that I thought I was going to ride or die in, and I feel like that chapter of my life was closing. And then I cried a bit of happy tears of being relieved that I can now focus on growing my company full time with all my hustle, all my heart, and not feel like I'm being pulled in so many directions. And I slept the next day, and I slept everything off and woke up day 2. And I said, I needed a mental pause to process what happened and to process what the future of Kaela Kay really was at that point, and to put, pen to paper and really plan that out. And then woke up day 2 and I hit the ground running.
I love that you broke down how you felt the fear and still did it anyway. Because that's the biggest lesson that I want people to walk away from. When you see stuff online and people like to make comments that, oh, I wish I could do what you're doing, or I wish I could do public speaking, or I wish I could write a book, or I wish I could start a clothing line. You can do all these things. And they're like, no, I'm too scared. Yes, so am I. But we're doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's feel the fear and do it anyway. It doesn't mean the fear is not going to be there. You push through it, and that's where the rewards come from.
That's it. It's very scary. And you stare fear in the face. And I have this odd relationship with fear because I really think it's relative. And it's a word that I actually don't like. Because I think for me, it was not even being afraid. It was more of self-doubt, anxiety.
Yeah.
For me, as opposed to being scared to actually do something. It was more of, can I do it? Not, I think it's going to fall apart or, it's going to fail. And like you said, it's just us always in our heads, knocking ourselves down before we really even start the race of being able to achieve something. And I've stared that thing in the face many, many times, times. When I quit my job, when I opened the boutique, like in both those instances, a bit of anxiety naturally kicked in. And it's, a matter of understanding why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Focusing on why you're doing what you're doing and pushing forward with why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you about the word fear. For myself, I use the acronym false evidence appearing real, but I look at it as face everything and rise. Because every time I felt anxious about something or, had that fear of moving forward with it, like you said, you have to assess the situation, assess what it is you're afraid of, assess, how you're going to move forward. And once you do that and you break through that terror barrier, that's where the rewards come from. That's where everything that you really want is on the other side of. When you spoke to when you were going through the emotions, crying about leaving your job and the anxiety of opening the boutique and stuff like that, I wanted to touch on the point where you spoke about you slept it off. I am just like you when it comes to those type of situations where instead of me acting out of emotion and freaking out or doing whatever, I need a nap or I need to actually just go to sleep. Let me sleep. And it's like, to me, it's like, okay, God's saying, all right, okay, go have a nap. I got this. Let me work out the how for you. When you wake up, things will fall into place.
Into place. Yeah. Because when you're in that state of mind, I found being an entrepreneur, I've made many times poor decisions because I was anxious, I was rattled, I was
You're acting out of emotion.
That's it. I'm acting out of emotion. And and as a point to all entrepreneurs, when you're faced with a situation like that, there's nothing wrong with saying pause. I need to step back. I need to go back and think about it. I need to go and nap. And when I wake up, I'll reconnect and let you know whatever decision or whatever I decided to do, because many times where I've done that, the outcome was not what I wanted. And I said, had I paused and thought clearly, I probably would have done something else or would have done it differently.
Right. So you spoke about never in a million years did you think that you would be building this designer brand and it would be so powerful. So one question that I have is I've seen your pieces on so many actresses and powerhouse women. So for those women who are thinking, okay, I'm just starting out as a designer, indie designer, nobody knows who I am. Like, you getting your pieces on those powerhouse women, was that just a natural evolution of the recognition of the brand getting, I guess, it expanding online or going viral, or was that something that you had to proactively go after?
So it's both. The majority is, God is good. The majority situations were people reaching out to me or us having some kind of a connect. But there were instances where I or my team sent an email or we sent a DM. But you can't sit there and wait for someone to connect with you.
Right.
Right. So if you want to dress a celebrity, if you want to get on a certain show, you want to appear somewhere, you have to do the legwork of reaching out, whether it's by email, by phone, by DM or whatever.
Yes.
The crazy thing about that is you may not get a call back. You may not get an email back, or not, at least not in the time frame that you want to get connected back with. And, you know, a couple months later, somebody might reach out to you or whatever. But like you said, I've had the pleasure of dressing many of the women, and some of them have been us reaching out to their stylist or their assistant, or them reaching out to us.
I think that's a good point for people that are listening to take away. If you want something, and especially if you want to dress a particular person, or in my case, even if I want to interview a particular woman who is at a level far beyond where I think I'm capable of being within the next 6 months or year, what have you, it's your pitch and it's being specific in your ask, you know, and it's not necessarily reaching out to that person all the time. Like you said, reaching out to their stylist or reaching out to their assistant.
You can't even get to that person.
Yes, exactly. Because those people usually have people that you have to get through before you even get there. So it's knowing who the gatekeepers are, knowing who the connect is to them. I think that's very important, because I have many people ask me all the time, oh my God, how were you able to get this person on your show? How are you able to get that person on your show? I'm like, it's pitching to the right person or knowing who is closest to them or who is connected to them that is reachable.
And sometimes, like, you know, there have been people that we've stalked on Instagram for a while because, you know, I really wanted to dress this particular person or whatever. And so whether it's a few DMs kind of commenting on their posts so that your name pops up frequently, so when you do send them a DM or you send an email, they recognize that, oh, I've seen that somewhere before.
Yeah.
Of course, in your pitch, you're offering something, not necessarily going for an ask, right? Or in my case, at least, offering up a piece or whatever.
Yeah.
And in my particular case, too, being prepared for that when you're offering the something, you're gifting it, right?
Yes.
So you have to be prepared for the fact that you're probably not going to get it back.
Right, of course. Yes,
and being okay with that. So flushing all of that into the realm of, as a fashion designer, the realm of your business and your budget and all of those. But I think in terms of celebrities, so they have a lot of influencers who this is what they do. You know, so depending on what level of influencer or celebrity you want to reach, some influencers might be easier to connect with than the celebrities. But I found that, and I've even met some of them in person, and I found that they are humans just like us.
Yep.
They are people just like us. And when you meet them, you're like, oh my God, maybe you're exactly like I thought you were on social, or you're not at all like what I thought you were on social, but it's nice to meet you anyway. And you realize that we're all really the same, right?
Right.
So
yes.
You won't know unless you pitch, and you won't know unless you ask or unless you offer something.
Yes. That point that you made about social media, which is how I've made a lot of my international connections, is you interact with them online first. You know, you're always commenting on their stuff, liking their stuff, so they get familiar with your name. That way, when you slide into the DM or send an email, it gets open because they're like, oh, hey, I know that name. That's, recognizable. I had someone ask me recently, how the heck was I able to interview Ariane Simone? I had her on in episode 48, but she recently announced a project with, and her name is like, it's on the tip of my tongue. She played Rudy on the Cosby Show. But the two of them, so the two of them,
Keisha Knight Pulliam, is that her name?
Yes. There we go. So the two of them just released their $5 million project to invest and support Black-owned female entrepreneurs. So everyone's like, how were you able to interview her? And again, I followed her for years on social media. And so when I slid into her DMs to say, can I share your story on my podcast? She's like, yeah, sure. Here, email my assistant. There you go. It was super easy, but people are afraid to approach people because they think that they're superhuman. They're human beings.
Yes.
They're human beings.
Yes. And fear, again, quote unquote, fear of being rejected.
Yes.
Or not getting a response and looking like an idiot, right? But I found in my industry, or just as an entrepreneur in general, you can't be afraid to put yourself out there. And I've come to a point where I'll put myself out anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you really want something and you want it that bad, you'll go for it. And once, like you said, once you've faced a few fears in the face, and you've gotten past it, and you look back and you realize, what was I afraid of in the first place?
Right.
And two, how easy was that?
Yes. Yeah.
All you did was send her a DM. Look how easy that was. And she saw that.
Yes.
And there you go. But you would have been sitting there going, oh my God, she's not going to read the DM. I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to come across like a stalker girl. And I'm not. No, just
right.
What's the worst thing that can happen? Either they don't respond or they say no.
Exactly. And that's another thing, because I know a lot of women who I've coached through the podcasting process, and they take it to heart when someone doesn't respond to an email, you know, for them to interview. And I'm like, don't look at it that way. If you're sending out one email and you're just sitting hoping and praying that one person is going to respond, you may never get a response. How about you send out 30 emails, and that way, if 10 to 15 of them respond, you've got something to work with.
And as an entrepreneur in business, you can't take anything to heart.
Nothing. Because half the time it's not about you. Right.
Half the time it's not about you. People are busy, schedules. As a designer, you know what? Okay, let me be honest. Let me be honest with you. I see where that's coming from. And in the beginning of my career, I had a bit of that where I thought, what do you mean? Like, you're not responding back to me? My clothes are so nice. How could you not?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm offering you something. How could you not want it? But as a designer, in my case, I had to understand that my clothes, as beautiful as they are not for everybody's taste.
Right.
So it just may not be for you. It may not be what you like. You may like, you know, different type of style and aesthetic or whatever. And I cannot take that to heart, because there are many other people out there who do and who will work with me, or who will, you know, use it to sell their clients or whatever, but don't take any of this to heart.
Right.
You're setting yourself back.
Yeah, I love that. I love that point. Thank you. So you've built this business with like no donations, no investors.
No.
Would you do anything differently if you had the chance to go back in time?
No, and here is why. I've thought about it also. One, if my business had, let me back it up. Yes and no. So the no part first. If my business had taken off any sooner than it did, mentally and emotionally, I was a different person, and I wouldn't have succeeded as well as I have. And I believe that the decisions I made leading up to, so saying no to certain things, saying yes to certain things, you know, whatever, have led to the course of where I am now. So if I was any younger, if I had quit my job any sooner, if I had started the company any earlier, if I had said yes to certain projects that I said no to, I would have probably failed at those projects. I wasn't mentally and physically ready to take it on. The only thing that I probably would have done differently is when I was working full time and running the business full time, my thought around scaling was just me putting in more hours.
Right.
So I would have reached out to get the support that I needed earlier. So I could have scaled better earlier, if that makes sense.
Got it.
In my mind, it was just me, and I can handle it, and that turned out to be a poor decision. And I didn't get the people that I needed in place to support the foundation of the business when it really took off. It was just me, and for that too, it was a bit of anxiety around bringing other people into my business. I'm very type A. Handing things off to people, I didn't want to have to do that. And I really thought I could do everything. And in certain areas, the business suffered a little bit. Thankfully, I was able to come out of that and kind of catch things up. But that's the only thing I would have done differently. I would have sought help or assistance and support when I needed it, instead of thinking that I'm Superwoman and I can do everything, because I'm not and I can't.
That's like the perfect answer. I'm listening to your response, and your reason for saying no is because you understand the importance of evolution and development, because you need to be developed and ready as a human being in order for your business to flourish and not be affected. And then your response of saying yes, understanding the importance of delegation and how we don't have to take on all the work for ourselves, and that we can be in business for ourselves, but we can't do it alone, and that we need other people to help and support to grow the business.
And people who those things, it's their area of expertise.
Yes.
And
I love that.
That's what they do. I'm not about reinventing the wheel necessarily. And if there's somebody where that's their focus and that's their career, that's their job, I'm all about paying somebody to do what needs to get done, because they're an expert in that area, and that'll help the company tenfold, as opposed to me trying to spread myself thin and do
Right.
everything and be everything to everybody.
So what inspires you the most about what you do?
Oh man, I love meeting people. And I love touching base with women and kind of hearing their stories about clothing. As crazy as that sounds, right? And I say that I'm a fashion designer and I own this wonderful clothing company, but at the heart of it, I'm customer service. And without excellent customer service and without customers, I wouldn't have the company to be as big as it is. But I love connecting with women, hearing their stories about where they're going, where they're wearing the pieces to, the experiences they've had wearing Kaela Kay. And that Kaela Kay is not just clothing that you buy, but it's a lifestyle brand that you buy into. I want you to think of my company as when you're going through different phases of your life, whether you had a baby, you're starting a new job, you're graduating, you're going to prom, you're revamping your wardrobe for the office, whatever. Like, let us be the clothing company that you go to help you get dressed in all these areas of your life. So take us with you through all these moments of your life. And some people have. And that's what I love to hear. And I love to hear that you didn't just buy a Kaela Kay dress and you wore it once and it sits in your closet, but you bought a dress and you wore it and you went out and everybody talks about it and everybody was approaching you about it and you felt fantastic and you looked beautiful and, you know, you went home and you didn't want to take it off. And it's funny how people, not that I have the boutique, people come to the boutique and they tell me these stories. And I'm like, I've never met you before. I have no idea who you are. But that is fantastic to hear. And I just love hearing stories about what they want to wear, where they're going, which also feeds into kind of the pieces that I put out in the future. Because I'm all about making sure that we have pieces that represent women in current stages in their lives, where they're going, what they want to wear, what they want to look like, how they want to feel. So they feel like when they wear a Kaela Kay piece, it wholly represents them as a woman.
I love that. I love how no matter what industry a woman is in, it still comes back to stories, our stories, and how our stories connect us and how we relate as women through our stories. I love it. I love it. So you spoke to loving the customer service aspect of it. And at the beginning you spoke to, you know, your mom coming from service and being a nurse. I don't recall if it was an interview that I did or a podcast that I was listening to, but there was another woman who was speaking about when it comes to women from Africa, it's ingrained in culture to be of service. So many women are in industries of being a nurse or something that relates to service. And then that was connected back to a spiritual belief. So I'm just curious if you feel there's any connection or you see any direct correlation to how you enjoy serving and if that connects to your faith.
That I've never heard that. That's interesting. But it's a good question. And I would believe it in the sense of, well, I'm Ghanaian. So let me just speak to that country specifically. But a lot of the Ghanaian women that I know are, if it's even, I don't know if I even call it in an area of service, but very open, very warm, very kind, very humble. And they like the idea and they like making people feel welcomed. And my mom, whether it's when she was a nurse or just even being hospitable and having people in the home, like hospitality is a really big thing for us. And we just like people to feel comfortable around us. And I've had many people, say to me, "Oh my God, like you're so much nicer in person."
Yes, because you have a bubbly personality.
Yeah, but they're like, "Oh, in pictures we don't get that from you, but you're so much nicer in person." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, that's great." But that's another, part of the company. And I want people when they meet me, I want them to understand that I'm relatable and that this company that I've built, I really built it for them. And I built it for women. I built it for people to feel like they can really be a part of it. And me wanting to make sure that they're comfortable in their clothes and they're comfortable with the story and they're comfortable with, the brand and buying into it. So I don't know if it's a Ghanaian or an African thing, but a lot of Ghanaian women that I know, they are actually they have good hospitality. And they're very welcoming and they're very warm. So I'm going to ask my mom that question. I think it's that.
Yeah, I think the conversation was around, how we find value in ourselves and how we find our purpose. And it was through service. And we feel like through the act of service and by doing things for others, the gratification that we receive from that and how it builds on showing love, and like you were talking about the whole hospitality side of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where originally the conversation was around. But yeah, I just thought I'd ask.
And a big part for me too is I want these women and people in general that I come in contact with. I want to treat them the same way I'd like someone to treat me.
Right.
So if I walked into a store and I'm going to spend money at the store, I would hope that the designer or the owner or the staff would be as kind to me and have as nice hospitality towards me as we have towards other people. And maybe that does come from, in the back of my mind, treating others the way I want to be treated. And, the underlying cause of that is then I hopefully too would reap something positive, right? Because I was extending my hospitality to somebody else. But I think I love treating people the way that I would hope somebody would treat me. And I've had many women, after we've had a conversation, they're like, oh my goodness, like, you're so nice. And it's so great. And, if I wasn't thinking of buying the dress, I'm going to buy the dress now because I love the story and I love the way you interacted with me.
So let's go on the flip side now. And can you speak to some of the adversities that you've had to experience to get to where you are today?
Yeah. From an industry standpoint, I mentioned this before to another platform. I heard a lot of no's when I first started the brand. Mm-hmm. So one that I can speak on was I was the only African brand I believe they had 2 years straight. I participated in the Mercedes-Benz startup fashion show. Mm-hmm. And that was a fashion competition. And they brought together, you had to apply online and you had to go in for a pitch and you had to go in for another pitch. I mean, like it was a whole to-do thing with models and you had to create a whole collection. It was a whole big thing. Mm-hmm. I remember I didn't sleep for 2 days before and I was so exhausted. But when I went in and they met me and they loved the pieces. They loved on the models and they said, we love you. Where are your clothes made? And I said, they're made in my house, in my basement. I make them myself. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, from a scaling standpoint, that's terrible because there's no way if a store places an order with you right now, there's no way that you'd be able to fulfill that order in good time and in good quality because it's not machine cut, like you're cutting every piece one by one. So in terms of sizing, quality, that would be terrible. And they said, we love you, but you need to go back and think about how you want to scale your company. This was probably 2013. And they said, you need to go back and think about how you want to scale your company, what you want it to really look like, and then come back to us and see if we'll consider you again. And I remember being so bummed. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have great products. They're beautiful. Like, I'm a go-getter. I'm young. I'm fun. Like, what is it that why are you turning me down? Years later, I look back on it and I said, you know what? They didn't turn me down. They actually did me a favor because if they hadn't put me through, I would not have succeeded. Mm-hmm. I would, based on where I was mentally and emotionally and just with the business and doing everything by myself and not being able to scale properly, it wouldn't have been the right time for me to scale. So as much as at that time I thought that was an adversity and it really, when I say I was crushed, I thought that as most entrepreneurs think, like, when an opportunity kind of comes and passes you, you think that's the only opportunity that's ever going to come to you.
Yep.
And you beat yourself up for days and days and days.
Because you think that's the best opportunity of life and you'll never get it again?
You'll never get it again because nobody else is going to look at the clothes and no one's ever going to buy the clothes and they were going to make or break me, right? That's literally what I thought at the time. But, thankfully that turned out obviously not to be so. But that I've also, through the course of business and growing spiritually, growing mentally, growing as a businesswoman, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs have said this too, if you can consider it an adversity, I've had to part ways with many people in life.
Yep.
Many, you know what I'm talking about, Mike?
I know what you're talking about.
And it's emotionally draining. It's mentally draining. And again, at the time when you're in it, it's you're feeling like all these adversities coming at you. You're losing friends and you're struggling to kind of keep this thing afloat and keep a brave face and all these things. And you don't understand why your friends don't understand, why the friends don't support. But again, looking back on it now, I've also gained so many other wonderful friends who are on the same frame of mind.
Yes.
Who are also go-getters, who are also entrepreneurs, or who understand. And I have friends who have come through that fire with me and who've allowed me to work and scale and go crazy and fall apart and get back up, and who supported me through the entire process, who I can really say now are truly my friends.
Yes.
So those two things, from a financial standpoint, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I think you're always counting your pennies.
Yeah. I did a post on Instagram the other day where I said, as an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years, actually over
Yeah.
10 years now, but as an entrepreneur, there has been times where my bank account has had multiple six figures, and there has been times where my bank account has been down to multiple cents. It's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey. And those times when it has multiple cents, you think, all right, I got to, I got to get up and I have to go and figure something out and scale or, do something. But you would know then in those instances, you know that something's coming up. Obviously, it's not going to be a cents and cents or negative or whatever it is forever. Because it's just the high and low, of being in business and being, an entrepreneur.
Yes. And mentally, we're programmed. If we know how to make $100,000, even if we lost it today, we know how to make back $100,000. Once you've done it, you know how to do it. Yes. And I wanted to go back to the point that you talked about losing friends, because I have a lot of women that message me, especially if they're new to entrepreneurship. Sometimes it blows my mind how many people are comfortable. I've never met them, but they flood to my DMs to share their stories and insecurities with me. But I have many women that will message me, and they are at a point where they either just started a business and they can't understand why people don't support them, or why they're losing friends, or why, they feel so down. And I love that you brought that point up, because I want them to understand it is a part of the process. And the reason it's a part of the process is because you need to make room, you need to make space for the greater good that is coming to you. And when you are evolving and when you are elevating as a person, not all of us grow at the same pace. So your energy, your spirit, your vibration, your mindset, everything is moving. And if you are holding on to the people that are not moving or not moving as quickly, they technically, even in a spiritual, if you look at it spiritually, mentally, emotionally, they're pulling you down to where they are. And you shouldn't feel angry or upset to let go and to move forward. And it's not saying that you will never speak to them or interact with them, because once you've reached to a certain point, you can turn back and help them and pull them forward. But if you are there trying to maintain that with those people that are pulling you down like weights, you won't evolve. And as an entrepreneur, if you want to be successful and you learn, like you said, when you make new friends that understand, they have the same mindset, they understand your business struggles, they understand your life struggles, everything, because you guys can relate. When you make space for that, you will attract and manifest the people that you need around you. You're going to attract and manifest the new friendships that can help elevate you, that can support you, that can understand what you're doing in your business. You make space for the opportunities of other doors to open, because when you're surrounded by people who are on a completely different vibration from you, they can't connect with where you're at. So I think it's important for women to understand, when you become an entrepreneur, don't be so inclined to hold on to everything that is around you, because the people, places, and things that are around you now can only get you so far.
Right. And if you're growing, and like you said, I like what you said about if everybody grows at different paces. Everybody grows in different ways. You're growing towards your purpose, and it's not the job of, or it's not also in the life of the other people to grow in your purpose. You're growing in your purpose. I think that's sometimes the mistake we make, that we're growing and we're growing our businesses and we're evolving, and we expect partners, friends to evolve with us. And that should not be an expectation. It's not, it shouldn't be an expectation you put on them, because that just puts unnecessary also pressure and stress on them too, right? And it's okay if they don't understand. Sometimes I felt like I was alone.
Entrepreneurship can be lonely. Yes.
So lonely. And I'm like, I just need to bounce ideas off of somebody, or am I the only one going through this and feeling this way? And I've met a lot of my entrepreneur sisters that I've met were through entrepreneuring networking events. And, we kind of became fast friends, and they understand, right? Because they're going through a similar journey of reaching their own potential. And it's okay if, like you said, you have to let go of some people, because you need to make space for newness. You need to make space for new people, and you need to make space so that you can really be full. And it hurts. It hurts because you've been friends with certain people for so long. And you both may not understand why the relationship's come to where it's come to, but I found that let go and let God and don't stress about it. And like you said, it's not like you'll never talk to each other again. I'm sure your paths will cross when they need to, but in order for you to really fully walk in your purpose and achieve that, you really need to be aligned with people who are intended to be aligned with you.
Yes. Yes. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Not everyone is meant to be around for an entire lifetime.
I will say the only two people that scaled with me were my mother and my husband.
And God bless them, because in my case,
they didn't have a choice, right? I'm moving up, guys. You got to come with me. You don't have a choice.
So with all that you do as a mother and a wife and a business owner, like, how do you take care of Catherine? What does Catherine's self-care routine look like?
That's a fantastic question, because honestly, Catherine is still learning to have proper self-care. I'm so, as most entrepreneurs say, so devoted and so dedicated to Kaela Kay that there were days when I'm not eating properly, I'm not sleeping properly, I'm literally not taking care of, I'm not going to the gym, I'm not taking my vitamins, I'm not seeing my doctor. I'm just so busy and so ingrained in this company. But I'm recognizing that, or I recognize if I'm not good to myself, I'm not good to anybody.
Right.
That actually fed into me quitting my job. My husband was saying that, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. He said, we need you. We need you around long term. And we can tell you're exhausted mentally. We can tell you're emotionally exhausted. You're kind of coming across a bit short fused. So something's got to give. For him and my kids and my mother, who have been my biggest supporters and who obviously I love dearly and I need, I would not want to come across that way to them. So something had to give. And I'm not giving them up. So I either had to give up the company, or I had to give up working 9 to 5 for my sanity, for my peace of mind, and for my family. So that actually was a big part of me saying, you know what, I have to start to let go of working 9 to 5 and focus on my company full time, because I'm not happy. I'm spread thin. And in being spread thin, I wasn't doing anything 100%. I was 25% here, 50% here, 25% here. So nobody was really happy, because I wasn't being full and 100% with them. So work wasn't getting done properly. I wasn't parenting properly. I probably wasn't being the best wife at the time, probably not the best businesswoman at the time, because I was but in my mind, I just want to please everybody so bad. And I want to be everything to everybody. I want to be there for everybody. I want everyone to be happy. But nobody was happy.
Pour from an empty cup.
And nobody was happy, and I was miserable. I'm like, I'm not happy. So that really fed into having to leave corporate life and focus on the business full time. And now my self-care routine, girl, includes regular massages. You know what I'm doing with my nails. So going to see my nail technician on a regular basis, having me time. And me time could mean going out with my girlfriends. Me time could mean, honey, I just need, some time to myself. So I need the kids and you to kind of give me some space. Me time also really means now, when my office hours have ended, my office hours have ended.
Yes.
So when I leave the boutique and I'm going home to be with my family, I need to be in that moment. I need to be there with them.
Right.
At that time, they need me at that time, and working with me the next day.
I think that's a great point, that last one, because I find, especially as new entrepreneurs, there's little balance. It's like you feel like you're working 24/7, even in your sleep, because you're trying to make things happen. But you need time to shut off. Yes.
Stress. Yeah.
Yes. You need time to switch hats. And like you said, your family needs you. You have multiple hats that you're wearing. And if you're 24/7 in entrepreneur mode, you're dropping the ball on everything else. So you need to set boundaries. And I remember when I first became an entrepreneur and I was selling real estate, and I was like, I don't work on Sundays, and I don't care. Like, if you want an open house, we're doing it on a Saturday. And if you can't respect my boundaries, then it's not going to work. I need Sundays for my family, my children, for church. I'm off on Sundays. Thank you. I will not even respond to an email. So unless your house is on fire.
That's it. But even then, don't call me. Right?
Yeah. Exactly. I'll get the news on Monday.
That's it. And because I felt like if I don't respond, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose the money. I'm going to lose the sale. I'm going to, but it comes to a point when you recognize that obviously as a company, you need to make money, and you will regardless. Not responding to that one email at midnight is not going to cause that deal to fall apart, right? It can probably wait till the morning, and that I really need to set boundaries for people, because otherwise we know people will then think or assume you must be available all the time. And that's not fair to you. It's not fair to your loved ones. It's not fair all around. So setting those boundaries of, I'm the same way too. So Sundays, it's church days. We go and pray, and we come home and we kind of relax with family. And Mondays, I'm off. The boutique is closed. It's my self-care days. Tuesday to Saturday, look for me. We'll be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it also teaches people, I think, too, to plan themselves properly.
Yeah.
My Kenny's not available on Sundays, so I need to make sure that when I approach my Kenny, I'm approaching her properly, and I've done my homework.
Yes. So I came across this Reader's Digest article, which I've been using for the show, but the article basically says that your favorite type of shoe says a lot about your personality. So we all know I'm obsessed with stilettos, hence the brand. So my question to you, Catherine, is what is your favorite type of shoe? Is it like a boot, a running shoe, a stiletto, a pump, a flip-flop, a flat, a wedge? I don't know. What's your favorite?
My favorite is a stiletto. For years, even when I was pregnant, I used to wear high heels and stilettos all the time. I used to wear them to the grocery store because that was just my aesthetic, and that was, just my aura, right? But stiletto is my favorite. I like a really good stiletto pump.
So women in flashy stilettos work hard and have excellent taste. They have major drive, determination, and standout work ethic. This is someone who says yes before she says no. She's very willing and very open to possibilities. She also really loves and values beauty. So she surrounds herself with beauty, whether it be in things, people, or how she lives. It does not have to be expensive. It just has to be pleasing to the eye. You walk in and you go, oh, what a lovely room, or oh, this is so inviting. She has a knack for being able to create an aesthetically pleasing space.
That's me. That is so. All the while talking, I'm thinking about the boutique and how everyone that walks in says, "Oh my God, I love this space. This is so aesthetically pleasing." That's fantastic.
I love it because so far that article has been so on point. I love it.
That's so really to the boutique, which has also been a godsend, and as much as I.
So before I go to the final segment of the show, I want you to tell people where they can stay connected with you online.
Yes. So online, the business socials, Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. Kaela Kay online. That's Kaela Kay online. Or Instagram, my personal page is the Catherine Addai. So the and the Catherine CATHERINE ADDAI on Instagram, and the website is kaelakay.com. You can shop with us 24/7 online, or drop by the boutique. Please drop by the boutique. We love having new customers come in, and that is at 857 Wilson Avenue in North York.
In North York, Toronto, because I've got, I think 50% of my audience is from the US. So for all of you Canadians, make sure you stop by the boutique. And if you're in the US, go online and order online.
Or come, if you're ever in Toronto, please stop by.
Yes.
If you're ever around.
So the final segment of the show, I call it A Walk in Her Wisdom, and I usually ask a couple of reflection questions. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say and why?
I would have a billboard in heaven, and it would say, "She lived a purposeful life."
Love it. Wow, that was powerful. Okay.
Yeah, because at the end of everything, I just want to know, and for people to know, that I touched people in some way, that they felt, even if it's just through clothing, through customer service, and that my life meant something, obviously, to people and to my family, and that I walk away at the end of life knowing that I lived as best as I could have, as I would have, as I wanted to, and that I'm going into the space full.
I love it. Wow. Thank you, Catherine, for taking the time to share your story with us. I truly appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. And to all of my faith walkers out there, until next time, subscribe to our newsletter at awalkinmystilettos.com and grab a copy of one of my personal development books available online everywhere. And if you received value from today's show, share it with a friend that needs to hear Catherine's testimony. Be sure to screenshot this week's episode and tag us on Instagram. You can tag Catherine at Kaela Kay Online or at Catherine Addai, and tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith, and continue to walk in greatness in your stilettos in a manner worthy of your calling.